Hey, what's up? Dave with Brazos Valley Strength. Today we're going to be talking about my competition block that I'm going to be using heading into the Corrupted Strength Classic on November 5th. So as always, if you're new to the channel, you can find this program as well as every past program I've done, I guess, on my website. Just click on the description below and you can check those out. So as a final note before we jump into the video, next week I'm planning on doing something different with one of my videos. I'm planning on doing a question and answer video, but what I want to do with this is take your questions and turn them into actually a good video, not just rattle off my answers just on camera right here, right? So what I'm planning on doing is taking probably 3 is my number. We'll see where it goes from there. But I'm gonna take 3 of your questions. So put them in this video, put them in the comments here, or I'm gonna post on Instagram later in the week, just asking for questions for a Q&A video, and I'm gonna try to turn them into an actual video. So demonstrations and editing, whatever, things like that to really dive into these questions. So if it's something, even if you've seen the question already asked, I'm probably gonna rank the ones that people are asking more often kind of highly. If I already have a video planned on it, I may respond to your comment and say that there's a full video planned. But anyway, I wanted to try this out. I'm planning on doing this maybe once every quarter or so, taking a few of your questions and turning them into smaller, kind of simpler videos, and hopefully that'll be something you guys enjoy. So put your questions in the comments below, or if you have specific questions on this video, I'll answer those directly here instead of next week. But anyway, I'm gonna try to keep this video fairly, short and casual. I don't really think I have a ton to say in this block, and one of the things that I always say about competition blocks in general is that they generally should be less complicated than other times in training, right? Like we kind of narrow our approach. We have things that we think are going to work well, for each person, right? If we've been working with somebody for a long time, obviously been working with myself forever, I have things that I'm pretty confident are going to go well in this block. And I think if you look at this one, the simplicity of it is probably what would stand out. And even the removal of a lot of what was going on in previous blocks. So what I'm gonna do today, I guess, is just start big picture, start with just my thoughts on the block as a whole and kind of what I was trying to create, and then just go squat, bench, deadlift with my objectives here, and what I expect to happen throughout the training and what I was trying to accomplish with the days. Instead of going day by day, I'll talk big picture and break down little bits of the days as they go. So like I said, simplicity and maybe less work. So since Raw Nationals, I guess I've really only done 2 full blocks since Raw Nationals. And I think my training has been fine. Like there's been instances here and there of really good training. I've had some good sessions really on every lift, but kind of sporadically. And I think my biggest thought there is that that's sort of part of the plan, that I was emphasizing putting on more muscle mass. I talked about how I've switched to a commercial gym for a lot of my lifts, and I won't have many accessories to show because I'm basically going up to the commercial gym pretty much every day after my competition lifts. But that has been a big emphasis over the last few months, because as I'm moving up to the now 110 kilo weight class, I'm about 109 kilos day to day right now. So I would still say I have 3 more kilos to go, like to just be totally comfortable, right? I could easily cut from 112 down to 110 without really any issues. So that's kind of my target range. And I'm wanting to just build muscle mass over time and continue to invest in long-term strength, hypertrophy, whatever. But in the short term, that hasn't been incredibly fun, I guess, for my training, is that just like everybody, I am excited about hitting big numbers, right? Like it's not nearly as fun, and it's hard to overcome the mental burden. I'm a power lifter and I'm investing in all of these accessories, upper body, lower body. And when I kind of have infrequent feeling sessions, good days, bad days, it can be frustrating, right? Like my deadlift from my last block was absolutely the worst it's been in a while. Like I was working up, things were looking pretty good. I think I doubled something like 330 or something pretty easily, middle of the block, and then it just kind of crashed and burned. And I didn't have a great explanation for it besides like, I'm just doing a lot of work. I'm not really pulling all that well right now. And so, that influenced my decision to like, look, let me take a bit of a step back, let me deload. And heading into this competition block, I just wanted to simplify things. Like my explanation for some of the, and I don't want to say like lack of success in previous blocks because the goal was building muscle. And I think I've put on muscle, right? I get comments here and there, we'll see. But I think I accomplished that goal, but just on paper, my strength was suffering, a little bit. And there was a bit of frustration with that despite knowing that was not really my goal. So with this block, I leaned into that a little bit, right? Like I took out a lot of the things that I think were impacting my performance in the short term. And that's the big emphasis. And I think that's what a peaking block should be, right? Heading into a competition, that we do want to invest a little bit less in the long-term side of things, right? Like we're focusing, okay, in the next month or so, I want my strength to be as good as it can relative to my current ability. So I'm taking out some of those things that may be impacting that. So you can see that really on every day, that there's one less accessory is kind of the easiest way to look at it. Upper body, lower body, whatever, that I removed essentially one accessory that should leave a little bit of room for other things. And one of the other switches that I did in this block, if you've looked at some of the other blocks, is I moved a lot of my back work away from my pressing days, which I normally just do like upper body, lower body kind of splits. Moved a lot of my back work onto my lower body days. Not because those things like go together, super, super closely, but just that I wanted to make myself kind of feel okay with the removal of a good bit of my lower body accessory stuff. And I think that this portion of the video may be the part that hits home for most people, that I want to do all the work possible to get stronger, right? And I think that most people, that would resonate with them. That I'm absolutely willing to, if you told me 10 by 10 on whatever, 10 by 10 on like really hard back squats, we'll just consistently put pounds, on your 1 rep max, you will absolutely get stronger. I think I'm willing to do those things, right? And sometimes it feels like if I'm not working as hard as I can, near my limit, that I'm not working hard enough. And that's an error, right? And I think that generally that's like one of the reasons why people hire a coach, is that people can be a little bit more objective. Coaches can be a little bit more objective. And I generally do a good job with that, I'm kind of willing to take away stuff from my programs and have found that removal of exercises, removal of sets, removal of some intensity has helped me get stronger as I've gotten a lot stronger. And I think that's one of the main points, is that I'm kind of having to adapt on the fly to increases in strength and like what I need to do to continue to progress as I've progressed. And that's just been a little bit of an interesting journey, especially when I'm investing in other blocks and still trying to push really hard to build muscle, because it's harder for me now to build muscle than it was previously, right? So how do I balance those two things? So anyway, this block is probably a fairly big shift on paper from the previous block. So putting some of the back accessories on my lower body days just kind of makes me feel better about like, okay, I'm working harder. I'm not just doing squats and then leaving, right? That I actually felt like I worked out a little bit more. So, I think some of that is really just for my own sake, that just the structure of things makes things feel more even across the board. So overall, I think that's the summary of the block as a whole, is like just doing things that I think will be represented at the top end, physically for my performance, but that may not go super far as building muscle and everything. I'll probably have to have a shift after this block to shift back to more hypertrophy driven things. So after that, I guess I'll jump into squats, go squat, bench, deadlift with the programming. And I don't think that there's a whole lot, to break down with any of these, because it's going to be fairly straightforward. My squatting, I'm going to be doing 4 sets total per week. And I was actually kind of interested in, and we'll see what happens the next block, but I'm definitely debating going down to just once a week squatting. Last block I tried to do a little bit more than I normally do, maybe more than a little bit. I was doing like 3 sets more per week than I normally do, and some percentage-based work and things like that, trying to get in a little bit more volume. I definitely had some good feeling days, but a lot of days that really did not feel all that good. And so this one is kind of a shift back to, I think, more of the levels that I think has been appropriate. And like we've seen on my deadlifts, me removing some of I've gone to once a week deadlifting, which is ironic in this block because I increased it back. But I've gone down to once a week deadlifting over the last year or so, and my deadlift just like almost instantly got better. And so I'm kind of getting there with my squats, is that I may end up in future blocks trying just once a week. And as it is right now, my first day of the week is really just kind of light accessory stuff and adding in a little bit of belt squat. So the day one squats are probably not going to get above like 240, maybe 250 kilos all block. I just really don't want that day to be hard at all. Like, I just want it to feel like I'm practicing the squat movement, kind of warming up to a warm-up level squat, and then moving on and hitting the belt squats and just kind of calling it a day. And I shouldn't have that day negatively influencing my other sessions. And then my primary session, which I'll be doing after this, is the only session of the week I haven't done yet. It should be allowing me to lean into the intensity a little bit more, right? Like top single and just a couple triples that I can go pretty hard at and not have like reservations that, oh God, I got to do, 3 more sets, 4 more sets, and just all these reps, right? So I'm definitely going to be biasing things towards intensity on my squat and a lot less towards volume. So on bench press has been the one that definitely I've made a huge amount of progress over the last year, moving up weight classes. It's been great there, but kind of as usual have struggled with injuries here and there, pec stuff here and there. But recently it's been my elbow, which I don't really know where that came from, but whatever kind of tendinopathy or whatever. But spent the weeks, months post nationals getting that back into order. Had some good feeling training at the end of my last block and have started off this block really, really well. So what we see represented in the program design there is limited, very, very heavy work, mostly because that's what seems to linger the longest with my discomfort in my elbow. My pecs are feeling great right now. Like I think as long as I'm not pushing the volume too high on bench press and I'm able to include a lot of those accessories that I'm doing at the commercial gym, my pecs have been feeling super good, so I'm not really worried there. But it's like direct intensity that tends to bug my elbow. So trying to find opportunities, ways to include heavy enough work to get some of the practice, but far enough away from failure and even some degree load at times that I don't feel like it's really just piling on and creating discomfort in my elbow. So on top of that, I'm just making sure that I'm writing things in a way that help me emphasize good rhythm and control. And I guess when I say control, right, it's like my level of control. It's just me feeling in control of being able to commit to the reps, because that's one of the biggest things with my bench press that I feel like when I'm confident I can really commit to descending fairly quickly and I have good timing off my chest, those things make my bench press feel the best. And it's not like being perfect and super slow on the way down. So at the beginning of the week, I'm doing these sets of 5 that I would say literally the goal on those is just to have me flowing, right? Like I'm not all that worried about the pauses. I'll worry about that later in the week. I have 3 count pauses and things like that in there. So I think that there's a lot of anecdote in the bench press. Like what styles of things am I writing that allow me to move the way that I want to move, right? Instead of just saying, like with my squats, I'm doing limited stuff. I'm just kind of leaning into the intensity. I'm not like, that's the stuff that I want to emphasize. With bench press, I'm emphasizing me feeling confident and good about the lift, right? And less so much like checking boxes as far as like, these things make you stronger. I'm just saying what makes me feel the most confident and really good about my bench press. And as long as I'm healthy, that should be represented on the platform. And that's essentially what I'm going after there. I mean, so far so good, right? I'm benching pretty well, but one weekend it's hard to really say if that's the program or not. So and deadlifting, I think very similar to squatting, is that I'm going to be trying to challenge the intensity there, especially on my primary day. And I'll be interested because since I'm holding back more on my day two, my first day of squats, that my deadlifts may be represented stronger in training than usual heading into competitions. Like I think heading into nationals, the most I pulled was like 360, 365 maybe, somewhere around there, and then nearly pulled 400 kilos, right? So if I pull like 370, 375 here, I won't scale that up accordingly. I think my goal, is still 390, 395, maybe a shot at 400. We'll see. I just want to lock one out this time is kind of my main goal, but we'll see if I get caught up in the moment. So the maybe ironic thing, since I mentioned it earlier, is that I have added a second deadlift day after my primary squats at the end of the week. But it's going to be very light. Like I think it's 60, 65% or something like that on paper right now. And I did that kind of as a reaction to some of the frustration in the last block. And the percentage here should be so low, right? Like it should be in the 500 pounds. It's like just based on performances, I would anticipate it being mid 500s or so. Like it's just not going to be very heavy for me. It should just allow me to get more and more reps that feel good and natural and mindless, kind of the same idea as bench press, that I think most of the time my strength on deadlift, like I definitely have ways that I directly think improve my deadlift strength, stiff leg deadlifts, heavy work, some of the higher rep hard sets on deadlifts, I think directly improve my strength. But that's not really what I'm going for right now. What I'm really going for right now is trying to emphasize a training style, riding the training, that's just going to have me just like just feeling really, really good about the way that I'm pulling and confident and just kind of mindless. So the deadlifts after the squats at the end of the week should be that. And I'll probably be pretty flexible with the loading there. For sure, never going above, 600 pounds, but probably like low to mid fives and just banging those out real quick. And we'll see. We'll see if that transfers well, to the competition deadlifts. I think there's a chance that throughout the block that may switch to something like stiff leg deadlifts or something. But anyway, I think that is going to, I'm excited about it for now. I haven't done these twice a week deadlifts in quite some time. So I think this block is one that kind of emphasizes the differences between me and the majority of people watching this video. That if I were writing a peaking block for someone else, just kind of the average person that, I do coaching, kind of intermediate, even like upper intermediate level lifter, I don't know that I would write this little work. I talk at times about how sometimes the feelings of fatigue and detraining can be very similar, to where, weights feel heavy and stuff just doesn't really feel very good. I would imagine that the majority of people, if you run this block, and I'm curious, maybe come back and leave a comment or something after you run this block. That might be a good experiment. But if you do it directly as written, I would bet that there's not enough in here for the majority of people who are following my training, if you're just following these free programs as they came out. And maybe a better way to phrase it, like if you got a lot stronger from the last block that was written, this block may be way, way less than what you need. And I think that I wanted to bring this up to kind of illustrate the points of how individualization can really happen, right? And that a lot of the stuff that I've written for myself in this block is simple and like straightforward, but it's stuff that I really think will emphasize a lot of really good stuff with me specifically. But it's significantly less than what I write for almost anybody that I coach. And I would probably say that would be true for the people that are running this. So I think if you want to take this and make it your own, I would certainly encourage you to do that, right? Adding some volume in certain places, adding a few more maybe lower body accessories or maybe a set or two onto squats and deadlifts, those kind of things would probably be a pretty good starting point. Or just run it and see what happens. And then you can kind of start having this data for what, kind of the comparisons, right? If last block with higher volume, more overall work went better or went worse than this one, I think you can kind of start formulating your ideas for yourself and really what works well for you. Because ultimately that's my point here, right? That me giving away these free programs is an opportunity for me to talk about this and talk about how I'm individualizing for myself and talk about concepts that maybe are difficult to show concretely and show what I would do differently for someone else versus how I'm doing things, and to show that, you know, there's always kind of a moving target, that I don't always know exactly what I'm trying to do or like just how I'm responding to things. And I may have things that go very, very well and then, you know, try to respond to that positively, and then like, yeah, it kind of gets messed up, right? But how do we continue to drive that progress? So ultimately, that's what these blocks are, or these videos and the blocks are for, is to talk about some of those things and hopefully have you guys asking those questions and not just taking the program and, you know, thinking that it's perfect, because it's not. It may not be perfect for me. It certainly may not be perfect for you. So anyway, I think that kind of wraps up this block. Like I said, it should be like pretty simple and straightforward as far as this one. I may have more to say with my coming blocks after this one, right? Like whatever I learn in this one and how I want to continue to try to put on more muscle after this block and drive things forward. But this one I think is pretty straightforward. So we'll be doing a review of the block like during my taper week. I'll make that video posting all my last lifts. Really, I'd say my main goal for this block, because I want to squat 750 pounds, so 340 kilos. We'll put that out there now. We'll see what develops there. That's like my primary goal in this one. We'll just kind of let the other lifts develop. So, like I said, if you have questions for this video or for other future videos, specifically the next video, the question and answer video, put those in the comments. I'm excited to try this structure. I think it's gonna go pretty well. So just make sure that you make your question like good. No thoughts on questions. Don't give me any of that. Just try to get the more specific your question, the better job that I can do, and the more likely I am to answer that question. So anyway, if you want this program, find it in the link below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.